afternoon for everyone. So hopefully you can see my screen now. I prepared a small presentation about the new way how writing chemical patents. I would like to introduce you a quite revolutionary new application on this field and share how it works. As Janči said, after my presentation, we will show you a live demo. So if you have some questions after my presentation, some of them hopefully will be answered by the live demo. And after that, obviously, we are happy to answer any question if you still have. It's a small slide about the importance of the Markush claims in the world of chemical patents. So it's a relatively old statistics, but I believe it's still valid, that approximately every 8 patents in total, not only in chemistry, contains some Markush claims. The important thing in these patents that the chemical space covered by the Markush claim usually enormously huge. So practically, it is not possible to enumerate this place or overview it in a simple manner. So you need some other techniques to handle this huge chemical space. Today, I want to focus to writing chemical patent and drafting claims. As we know today, this is a manual process, required highly skilled professionals. And as it illustrated in this image, it's quite tedious, time-consuming, and error-prone. And it is time-consuming when every minute is matter, because you want to be faster than your competitors. And you may know that making any error during patent drafting can be super expensive, because your competitors can find a way how can busting your patents, for example. Here is a quite oversimplified process of writing patents. So usually, according our customers' feedback and our personal experience, the drafting starting to receiving a set of compounds that you want to protect. The next step, usually identification of the scaffold, formulating some way the R groups and list of R groups that you want to protect, and cover all of the novel compounds that you want to protect, build up the claim hierarchy, the fallback positions that you can use during the granting process. And you obviously not only want to create the create the claims, but also want to create the list of exemplified structures with all the extra information that needed for preparation or measurements around it. You want to add a detailed description, and you want to formulate, complete the formal requirements for the filing. ChemAxon Markush Editor can help you mainly in the first green box, identification of scaffold, formulation R groups, building up claim hierarchy, but also in the first half of the second green box, a list of examples, creation, and also formulating some other parts of the patent. Some details about the process. So our solution to overcome this frustrating task of drafting Markush claims, combining the capabilities of computer technology with the human intelligence. So we can do an automatic scaffold detection to find you the optimal scaffold of your compounds. We can also help you to offer a list of initial list of R groups that you can modify in an interactive editor to extend the scope of your Markush structure. With our search and visualization technology, we can give you instant feedback after any modifications about the coverage, about the overlap with your structures that you intended to cover, and overlap with prior R structures, for example, if you load some of them. And at the end of the day, we also can help you to generate the text form of the claims and a list of examples. There are some screenshots, but as I said, later, Béla will show you a complete demo, how it works. So Usually the process started with the list of compounds. Obviously, this list usually contains not only structures, but also some related data. Markush Editor, with a technology that we call Composer, capable to generate you automatically optimal scaffold and identify an initial list of R groups that can be used for further generalization. In the interactive editor mode, you are able to do this kind of generalization. So in the middle of the screen, you have a good overview of your Markush structure. Here is the R group hierarchy. Here is the R group definitions, and here is your scaffold. In the right-hand side, you can see a list of your exemplified structures. You are able to add multiple lists if you want, so you can organize your example lists in this way, depending, for example, on the importance of the structures. Or you can load here also not only examples, but you can also load here prior art structures that you want to avoid, and you can check it this way. You can see some of the examples are green, some of them are red. Green means the green ones are matching to the Markush structures, and the red one is not matching. We have a nice visualization to help you to identify the distinguishing part, what you may need to modify to cover this non-matching structure. And as you can see in this table, you can have additional data. For example, if you have in your SDF file activity data, you can use it to identify the most active compounds easily. And this way, for example, in the dependent claims, you can focus on the most active compounds if you want. So you can build up your claim hierarchy, and you can narrow down your claims if you want, according the importance of the examples. It's often a safe and convenient way to editing Markush structures. So in the initial step, when you load your examples, we support multiple formats. The most typical ones, SDF files or CSV format. In CSV format, you can start from a list of IUPAC names, for example, or you can use SMICE or most of the typical formats that used in this field. We offer a very rich set of Markush functionality. So we support R groups, homologies, position variation, repeating units, multipliers, and many other things that are required to build up a very complex Markush structure, as you usually do in paper Word in your current workflow. The visualization, based on our opinion and based on the feedback of our customers, is quite easily understandable and informative. So you can find easily what is covered, what is not covered, and how you need to modify your Markush structure to complete and protect your IP rights. This interactive validation helps in this, and you can also use it to avoid to overlap with the prior arts. And what is really important regarding avoiding mistakes, you get immediate feedback after any modification. If you made some inconsistencies, for example, you have circular reference between R groups, or you missed to define some R groups, or you have a valence error or anything else, or some of your claims, for example, your dependent claim is not, it's broader than your the parent claim. So all of these things are continuously checked, and you get immediate feedback about that. At the end of the day, you usually want to see your Markush structure instead of this nice structure-based visualization in a form of the text. The good news, Markush Editor can help you in this. So it's capable to automatically generate you claim text. We try our best. However, this is not a legally compliant text. It may need additional adjustment. However, based on the feedback, is a really good starting point to do the final claim drafting. So currently we support English and Japanese. I hope the Japanese one will be useful in your life. Besides of creating the Markush claim, we have some bonus functionality, for example, generating the list of the exemplified structures. For all of the exemplified structures, we are able to generate IUPAC name, and we are also generating an image for that. So this is a small thing from technical part. However, based on the feedback, this is quite useful and important for the customers. So the conclusion, the Markush Editor offers a revolutionary new approach chemical patent drafting. Instead of the time-consuming manual process, you can use this tool to automatize most of the labor-expensive task and focus on the other parts of the creating your documents. You can save time, you can avoid mistakes, and what is really important, maybe in the later phase, that you can check any structures against your patents easily. For example, if it's a litigation process later or anything else, when question can be the coverage or a Markush claim with this tool, and if you have your Markush claim in a form of this structural representation, you can check in seconds any structure against your Markush, regardless it's a competitor's structure that you want to prove that your patent is covered, or it's a prior art compound during the litigation process. Very easy to reuse the information that's generated with the Markush Editor. So we offer you better quality patents and competitive advantage in protecting your IP rights. And this is not only a promise. Here is our customer voice. So in worldwide, we have more than 15 customers now. It's a relatively new product, however, still huge interest around it. It's a returning statement from our customers that it can save days of work for them. And we already have 3 big pharma customers. Unfortunately, most of them not allowed us to share their names, but Bayer was so kind that give their permission to mention them during the presentation. So I believe it gives some trust to our original words about the promises. So, and as I mentioned, it's quite huge interest around the applications. So we have 5+ ongoing evaluation currently. What is also really important, this application is under active development. So with collaboration with our existing customers, we're still working on to improve it. So there are some appetizers about the upcoming development. So we're working on to improving the claim hierarchy creation and generalization workflow. In the automatic Markush generalization, we work to create a more broad Markush structure in the early step. This way we can save you some time in the generalization process. We want to offer a coverage analysis to help you to better understand how well supported different parts of your Markush structure by your examples. And we're working on to export additional data together with your examples, for example, LD15 values, IDs, or NMR data, or other things that usually also contained by the list of examples in the patent. And we are also working on some smaller improvements regarding the composer process, the Markush creation, and the Markush to text functionality. So this is Markush Editor in a nutshell. And now I give the word to my colleague Béla, who can show you how it works in practice.
はじめまして、Pukánszky Bélaと申します。どうぞよろしくお願いします。次にどうやって Markush Editor を使って科学の特許の請求項を書くことできるのは見せたいです。残念ながら、必要な科学のことは日本語であまり知りませんので、これから英語で続けた方がいいと思います。すみません。はい。 In the next few minutes, I would like to show you how you can go from having a list of example structures to actually having a complete claim draft. As Árpád mentioned, you can actually we can get example structures from quite a lot of formats. For our example, I will use SDF format. At this screen, you can actually select additional options for adjusting your Markush generation. But at the beginning, I would suggest going with the default options and tweak it only if you are not satisfied with the result. So basically, after selecting the example list, in a couple of seconds, you already have your Markush structure. As seen in the previous presentation, you can already see the Markush tree structure as well as the loaded examples. If you have additional information in this example file, like, for example, activity information, you can also reorder your examples, which might help you if you want to select only a couple of structures. I would like to draw your attention to the bottom as well, because here we have an indicator that all the structures are matching. The matching structures are indicated with a green background, but all the structures are matching to our automatically generated Markush. This might be actually important if you have a quite large number of examples. You can also add additional sample sets, which might be important. Once again, as Árpád mentioned, for example, if you want to compare your Markush with state-of-the-art documents. However, in our particular case, for the second set, you can see that one of the structures has a red background, indicating that it does not match the automatically generated structure. If you select this structure, you see immediately that, first of all, the example structure is highlighted. Obviously, the green part shows where it matches the Markush structure. That makes it quite easy to identify the non-matching part. You can also see that in the Markush tree, green indicators show you which fragments are valid for this example structure. And just by looking at the claim tree, it is quite easy to identify that in our case, the R group R14 is the problem. After looking at the group definitions, we can quite easily identify that the chloride group is missing. So here comes the fun part. You can easily edit all parts of your automatically generated Markush. So in our case, I will just simply add the chloride. You see, this is how easy to edit. Additionally, I want to point out that it immediately revalidated the coverage. And now you see it's green. So it does this with every change to check the matching between the generated Markush and the examples. Obviously, you can also edit the scaffold, but manually if necessary. So with these couple of simple steps, you can actually generate one Markush structure, which can be a basis for one claim. However, this claim will basically cover quite narrowly the example structures. As we know in claim drafting, however, you want all the time, quite broad coverage to start from, as well as depending on your use case, you might have a quite a complex claim hierarchy. In Markush Editor, you can quite easily add and organize your claims. You can simply just add claims. You can also reorganize them. So it is quite an easy to use tool to reorganize them. At this point, I want to draw your attention to the bottom left. Here we have a checker view. This is the place where you will be warned if Markush Editor found some inconsistencies or some problems. In this particular case, it only shows a minor warning that all our claims are identical, so they cover the same chemical space. At this point, it is obvious, however, it might be useful to mention in our present workflow, what you do is you have your initial claim, and basically you, by adding dependent or referred claim, you are just copying the previous claim, and that will be the basis where you start editing from. So now we want to go a bit wider. We want to generalize a bit. I believe, for example, the definition of R group 17 is a good candidate for that. So it contains fluoride and chloride, but I believe if we might even consider for this position bromide or iodine. Obviously, you can just add the additional groups, additional definitions. However, we also have additional tools to make this process quite more convenient by selecting these two and suggesting that I want to replace it with a more general expression. You get a pop-up window where, based on your selection, you already have a couple of suggestions. Here I will choose the obvious choice, replace fluoride and chloride with halogen. So by simply double clicking and saying OK, it already replaced halogen. As you can probably you could not see because it's so fast, but it already revalidated the example structures. But because we went broader, obviously all the examples are still covered. One additional thing that changed is that we lost one of the exclamation marks because claim 2 and claim 1 are different now. So in order to fix this additional exclamation mark for claim 3, I will go a bit more narrow. One additional point that is quite important, and I forgot to mention that beside here in the claim hierarchy, where you always see which claim is active, which claim you are editing, in the claim tree, you also have an indication to help you see which claim you are working on. So for claim 3, I will go into the previously edited R17 group. Yes, here we are. It already shows that for the current version of the claim, we have fluoride and chloride as active as active meaning for the R17 group. And we can also see that halogen is a definition for the parent claim. So in our case, to go more narrow, I will simply choose to exclude the chloride definition. So for claim 3, the Markush tree, we have only R17 for this particular case. And also you can see that just as before, the validation is immediate. So now this one structure is not covered. So with these basic few steps, you are able to go from having example structure to having a Markush And moving forward, you can see how it is quite easy to edit both the scaffold, the R group definition, and how you can organize it into claims. And now I would like to show you how you can see the results. First of all, we have this document preview option, which is quite useful as it is also validated immediately with the changes you make to the structure. By the way, you still have this validation view, and Markush Editor is quite flexible. You can always choose to reorganize windows. If you have 2 monitors, you can also drag and drop some of the windows there. You have the language selection option. It can be checked in real time, both versions. And I would also like to draw your attention to one additional feature. As Árpád mentioned, we are continuously developing the tool. And one of our recent development based on customer feedback is that some of our customers would like to see IUPAC names, and some would see formula for the definition of R groups. So for example, I choose prefer condensed formula and select apply. It immediately changes how the resulting claim will look like. You see here and here as well. When switching back, it immediately replaces it. We have a quite nice library of Japanese phrases, but you also have the option to manually add your group definitions. It's quite simple. You just draw in a structure and add a name for it. Okay. One additional note before I show you the actual result of the process. In this particular case, I did only show you the basic workflow. So when you will take a look at our resulting claims, you see that here for claim 2, 3, and 4, we have only very minor changes, and obviously the scope is almost identical. So the final step is exporting to a document. Once again, it's quite straightforward and simple. You choose the language. You choose if you would like to see the example structures included as well. And basically, you choose a location and a name for your file. In this particular case, I will choose to export it as a Word document. And just simply say finish, and in a couple of seconds, you will see the resulting document. Here we go. So as you can see, here we have a list of example structures. And of course, you can see that we do not only have the example structures, but the IUPAC compliant name is generated as well. And following the example structures, where is it? Yes, here you have the claim, you have the scaffold, and the R group definitions. And of course, our 3 dependent claims. This is an actual Word document. You can freely, as Árpád also mentioned, you can also freely replace, edit, do whatever you prefer. And that is basically, these are the few steps how you can go from having a list of example structure to an actual patent claim draft. And before I conclude, I also want to mention that I believe you will have the option to try this out using our demo. Thank you very much.